everyone, I'm Siri Vincent Pluff.
And I'm Cassandra Snow.
And you are listening to Chaos and Cunning,
a DIY witchcraft podcast at the crossroads of magic and daily living.
Cassandra.
Siri.
Is it time?
Yes, it is time.
So, we are starting a Patreon for the podcast, and it's really exciting. We'll have bonus episodes and mini arcs about stuff that we don't cover on the main podcast.
After this episode, we're actually taking a short break from the podcast proper, but we will be on Patreon with a mini arc of the podcast that's going to be all about Minnesota folklore and heavy on the cryptids at the request of yours truly.
I am so excited because
I am really excited too.
I love like weird little local shit, and I feel like Minnesota cryptids and stuff don't get as much love as they should.
They don't. And a lot of people don't know about a lot of them, even people from here. So I'm really excited to talk about it.
Yeah. So if that sounds interesting to you at all, you can access it for just $5 a month.
If you're in a really good spot and you love us a lot, there is going to be a $25 donor tier. At this point, you don't get any extra content for it, but if you just are really feeling generous, you really want to make sure Siri and I are able to support ourselves in the podcast, you have our undying thanks. We will thank you on air if you want. That's an optional opt-in.
Perfect. Yes. So check out our Patreon at the link in our description.
And now back to the show.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Chaos and Cunning. Today we've got a great podcast episode for you all about glamour magic.
But first, let's kick off with our divination corner. We have both been professional diviners, fortune tellers, whatever you want to call us, for years and years and years. 20 plus years of experience between us. That's like 4 decades. But what we do here is not forecasting. We just want to give you some ideas or prompts to chew on, to create with, or to help you process sort of the chaos that is the world around us, and particularly your personal life. So, Siri's going to start this time. What have you got for us?
So today, I am using a slightly more novelty deck. And it is the Gothmency Divination and Darkness Tarot. First of all, I just love the backing here.
It is beautiful.
And I don't know if you can still buy this, because they used to do it in terms of like cycles of Kickstarters, and I don't know if they're ever going to do that again. But I'm very glad that I have a copy, because it is a like kind of subculture specialty deck, but it still has a lot of tarot imagery that is like unique to this deck, but rooted in tarot tradition. So like I really like that. And it's also at the same time not like a Rider-Waite-Smith copy.
Yeah.
So like I just love that. Anyway, pitch for the deck.
I was looking up if you can buy this deck, and you were right. You cannot, I don't think.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Might be able to find it on eBay or something. But like that's always like when indie decks go out of print, they get really expensive.
They do. You could also do, there's a Facebook marketplace specifically for tarot decks. So you can always throw an ask in there. A lot of people are willing to trade in that group.
The star.
Yay!
And I believe that's interesting. Okay. So the star. So in terms of like working with the star energy, I like to think of this card as recovery, but also especially creative recovery. And maybe I've been kind of like returning to Lessons from the Empress a lot lately, because the 3-year book birthday anniversary is coming up. in October. And so I am just thinking about that book a lot more and thinking about creativity and tarot. So the first thing that jumps to mind with the star is this idea of creative recovery, like recovering your ability to have creative vision. And that can also apply to other aspects of your life too. So like if you've been going through burnout, like you can think about the energy of this card as being about like recovering and your ability to kind of like see like the changes that you need to make, see the changes that you want to make in the world. Thinking about it from an activist perspective, like I definitely think that that is something to keep in mind with the star. Um, and so like one prompt that really comes to mind with this card is um what creative inputs are really helpful for you right now to maintain your vision. So this works whether or not you are burned out, right? And so you can think about it as like, what movies or books or poetry or like fine art or music like really inspires you. And not just like I like this, but like what art inspires you? What is breathtaking in an inspiring sort of way? Um in order to like maintain your um spark. Yeah.
I love that. It ties
Yeah.
in nicely with mine. I am using the Line Strider Tarot today, so it's another double tarot divination corner, which we love. Um, I'm using the Line Strider Tarot, which is a mass market deck from Llewellyn. You can get it wherever you buy tarot decks. I really love the art. It's like nice and pretty and splashy and watercolory. And this is one of the like rudest, borderline like meanest decks that I have. Like, everyone's
Amazing.
like, "Oh, pretty splashes of watercolor," and then it's like, "You are the problem. Fix yourself." Um,
I love that. I love that it
yeah.
like for people who like buy it and are like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to spiritually bypass all of my bullshit." And then
Mhm.
and they're like, "Oh, this tarot deck is going to help me do that." And then like they pull and it's like anyway, sorry.
No, it's good, and I think it speaks to something you and I are all about in real life, which is, like, catching more flies with honey, etcetera, and so I think it really, really speaks to that, but, as I was shuffling, a card just flew out, and it was the 2 of Wands. So,
Oh,
the 2 of Wands is typically a card that shows up for me when a lot of what you were talking about, needing to, like, rest and get re-inspired and restored creatively. However, when I'm getting the say, the star, it's when I'm just, like, not feeling it, not interested in anything. I feel like I need to rest a lot more. When I get the 2 of Wands, I know that the root issue is the same as that, like, I need that inspiration, but it manifests differently. For me, it manifests for me and a lot of my clients as like, "Oh, I can tell I'm getting burnout because I can't focus, or I want to do too many things, or devoting myself to a specific project is extra hard right now," or something like that. And it's a very scattered energy. That being said, one of the original keywords that I learned with this one was wanderlust, and this similar to the 3, but again, it's slight variations on an idea. But with the 2 of Wands, I always sort of synthesize that and say like, okay, I often say that we get wanderlusty when either it's just time, right? Like we haven't been out of the 4 walls of our house in a long time, or alternatively, a lot of times for those of us who struggle with being like so wanderlusty in an unfocused way, a lot of times it's because there are elements of sort of the glamour and also respite of travel, of going other places that we need to be incorporating back into our life. And so how it can manifest in the day to day is sort of the metaphor of wanderlust. So like just feeling really scattered, feeling like the next project is greener on the other side, and then getting into that one and feeling like, nope, that one's not whatever. And for me, like I have bona fide ADHD. So for me, it's also like all of my mental health symptoms are really exacerbated when I should actually be like resting and not doing things. So
Mhm.
all of that to say, that really. And then, so what I would say in terms of like creative prompts or philosophical prompts or whatever you want to say is what root feeling is sitting under my grass is greener mentality. Because with the Two of Wands, I don't actually think it's envy or jealousy. I think it is more like we need refilled and specifically we need to experience something new. And so the second prompt I would give is what does novelty do for you that you're not experiencing now? And then third being like, what can I do to bring that into my day to day enough to like interest me and excite me and then help me focus when I get down to it.
Lovely.
So, yeah.
I'm sorry if I was, a little distracting while you were giving that very lovely explanation of the Two of Wands.
I
My cat was, like, threatening to jump on my desk and knock
don't like
everything over.
I don't like that for you
Yeah.
or him. So,
Her. It was the
oh.
monster, the true monster of the 2 of them.
Well,
Um,
I know Wednesday sometimes just wants to be with you in a way that is like, I will knock everything over to get to you, mom.
yes. Okay. So, today we're talking about glamour magic, a topic that is, I almost said very cool in queer magic, but, like,
I
people
don't
don't
think that
say that.
I don't I don't think that's wrong though. Like you're not wrong.
Right. Anyway, so, like, today we're talking about glamour magic, a thing that is, very particularly useful within queer magic. Um,
It's just very cool.
it's very cool, guys. Um, and this is a topic where I feel like you are much more of the expert than I am. So we're going to be relying very heavily on Cassandra's well of knowledge in
Mhm.
regards to glamour magic today.
I also too want to give the disclaimer because this is the digital age. Expertise is a lie. This is largely unverified personal gnosis. And it's largely just like my thoughts. Like I have read and studied glamour magic and stuff, but of all the types of magic we're talking about, this is probably the one that I like plan least. It's the one that I just kind of wake up and I'm like, I feel like doing a spell today. Time to enchant some lipstick or what. Like just I'm always just off the cuff with it. Um but then I also will say if you know me, I am not an easygoing whatever happens person except in actual emergency circumstances, in which case I'm like, this might as well happen. Um, for some reason, my brain that needs to be in control just shuts off when it's like an actual emergency. But anyway, um,
Maybe it's Maybelline and maybe it's trauma.
yeah, because to me, things like my favorite seats in the movie theater being full, like, break me. But then, like, there's like a big uproar in my queer platonic partner's life right now that I'm not gonna get into, but, like, I've literally spent so many days so angry, but then also, like, whatever. We'll just do our own thing if this happens. Um, and so
Woof.
yeah. But anyway, all of that to say, what is glamour magic in my words? So the reason I said all that is because I feel like doing my glamour magic off the cuff helps with sort of what glamour magic is, which is wanting to be seen a certain way and wanting to use glamour, by which we largely just mean appearance or things that we think of in the same vein as appearance, to be perceived a certain way. And it's not just about physical appearances, too. A sort of mundane example is like a person who makes their master's degree their personality, just like using a lot of big words in conversation, a lot of SAT words in a way that feels really inauthentic, which is very different than like a lot of very smart and slash or neurodivergent people, or even just a lot of people who are very well read and studied, but a lot more introverted. Um, there's still a lot of SAT words and stuff, but it feels like that's just how they talk. Like it might feel awkward, it might sound awkward to you, but like that's like I don't know. There's like a difference between when people are wanting you to think they're smart versus where when they just like big words. So that's like a very mundane example, but a lot of times too I use glamour magic for protection. For example, one thing I absolutely love to do at Pride or even like the state fair or something like that, I say to as someone who's been once, um, is wearing glitter specifically so people will be like, oh, that person's pretty or glamorous or whatever, but also because glitter is reflective and so it can like bounce negative thoughts about you away from you so they don't end up impacting you. And so, again, most kinds of magic are hard to define because they're like lots of things, right? And so, this is about being perceived a certain way and also about being a certain way. Glamour magic is kind of the epitome of fake it till you make it. It just adds a magical step of like, fake it until you convince other people and then you'll make it. um, and so,
Yeah. It's interesting that you say it that way too, because like a lot of my experiences with glamour magic have also been like people trying to attract things or
yeah,
people to them.
yeah,
Um, which, makes it very, very helpful for like combining with things like abundance magic,
uh-huh,
right? Like combine, especially if you're like in online business,
uh-huh,
hey, like the way that people perceive you will change whether or not they're more likely to book with you
yeah,
for a service or something. So like utilizing glamour magic in that way can be very helpful for attracting clients or
mhm.
for attracting shoppers or that kind of thing. So that's where I've seen it utilized very, like, practically is often in, combination with other forms of magic.
Yeah. Well, and I will say too, I do a lot, or not I do a lot, but I know a lot and have done a lot of sort of like queer glamour magic, which I think is very much about gender affirmation, sexuality affirmation. When I first came out, I was perceived as straight a lot still. I think the longer I live in a city and the less fucks I give, that's less true, but it used to be very true. And so um yeah, I would sometimes use it so that at least other queer people would see me and be like, "Oh, hey, that's one of us." And so, and that can be anything from like subtle flagging that doesn't even have a non-magical component, but then also like AFAB, Sapphic, like WLW. I mean, I'm super non-binary, so all of these words are limiting, but like I'm just not into men or masculinity really. We don't have, like, a specific flagging set, like, some people know about nails, some people will still use, like, what grew up in queer male communities, which is the hanky code, um, but anyway, all of that to say, like, mundane things like that, but I'm also a really big fan of, like, enchanting those things, and especially because there's not a solid one for, like, the types of queer we are or whatever. There's not, like, a universally recognized one. Like, even if someone's wearing a hanky, like, even if you don't know what it is, you know that they're flagging something, so you can Google it. I think the problem I run into as a femme a lot is, like, does anyone even know these earrings are flagging or whatever it is? And so, adding a magical enhancement to that, and then eventually I got to a point, again, it's like fake it until other people are convinced, and then it will be true, or you can make it true or whatever, or sometimes that happens at the same time. But I think I was never as happy with my magical skill set as a few years ago when I was like, "Oh, sometimes especially guys will hit on me because they think I'm straight." And someone was like, a good friend of mine who was very, very queer also was like, "Why would a straight guy think that? You're like the gayest looking person I know, and that's saying a lot." And I was like, "That's not me. That's glamour magic, baby." Like, um, but then, yeah. So, a lot about what glamour magic is, and I've talked about some of my favorite applications of it. Do you have anything to add to what glamour magic is before we kind of move on to ways we like doing it that we haven't
Um,
mentioned?
Not inherently. I do just think that, like, I wanna stress that, like, it's really useful when paired with other forms of magic as well. So, like, we'll talk
Uh-huh.
about glamour magic as protection, we'll talk about glamour magic, for abundance, as I mentioned. We'll talk about glamour magic for love magic
Mhm.
also, and, like, kind of ethics around that, I think. And, um there's also just something to be said for glamour magic for, like, your own mood and healing journey.
Yeah, and it's okay if the only person you're trying to convince is you. Like, if the convincing other people is not relevant, that is fine. Because there's definitely been times in
Totally.
my life where that's been true for me as well. Like, including
Totally.
after someone was like, "You look like the gayest person I know." I still will have days where I'm like, "Well, I don't feel like I look gay, so I need to do a little something."
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the alternative to that example is, like, if I'm going into more of a red area, geographically, and then I will do, um I don't have it in me to not wanna look super queer, so but I a lot of times I think, like, quote unquote invisibility spells or something like that are just like a different form of glamour magic.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's where I thrive a little bit
right.
more, actually, is in the reverse. The, like,
Yeah.
reverse image of glamour magic, which is invisibility work.
And that is still very much glamour magic too, if people are listening. That is still very much like I want to be perceived a certain way, and that certain way is no.
Yes. Yeah, I just say the reverse negative because it's like it's there, it's always going to be there, but also it is its own thing.
Yeah. So, and I think now we are kind of just in a conversation about what some of our favorite applications of it are. I will say one thing I really like that Matt Oren and Psychic Witch put in very like firm words, and it's something that I think I've always felt but never this like bluntly, which was magic is as much about changing you as it is about changing circumstance. And that doesn't just mean becoming a deeper, better person, although that should obviously be part of your work. Um, but it also is like, so sort of an example that I don't remember if he used or it's one I used when I was trying to explain this concept to people, but it was like instead of just doing, say, money attraction magic, you are also doing magic that is like, I am the kind of person that money is attracted to. And so sort of moving your own person into that. And that works really, really well with glamour magic. It's like, okay, I'm doing the external working and I'm also doing this part. Um,
Yeah. Um, so the Money Witch,
oh, I
has
love her.
a yeah, I love her work.
Mhm.
Has a roll-on oil called Money is Sexually Attracted to Me.
Uh-huh.
And mwah, that's like the perfect glamour magic and like money magic
Sort of
combination.
yeah.
Yeah, the best
And
example I can think of.
yeah. Well, and I think something I've been trying to work with lately, and it's hard because I don't want to spiritually bypass myself or anyone else because we live in very dangerous times for queer people right now, as well as anyone who doesn't fit a specific image. And so I've been working with concepts of like, not only am I wanting to make sure that I have spiritual and external safety, like magic to make sure my locks don't break and things like that. But I'm also attempting to do sort of the glamoury side, which is like, I am a person who is safe. I am a person not to be fucked with. I am a person that people either want to love or leave alone. um, and I'm fine with either, but there are no other options. Love me or leave me alone. And so I've been doing the sort of the workings to like, again, the glamour side of like, okay, I want to be perceived as someone that is this way, knowing that like the full stop gap is like, and then also it sort of goes into older magical theory as well as even like queer theory of like perception is proof, perception is reality. And so I am a safe person because other people are hopefully picking up not to fuck with me, if that make like that is a I don't know, I'm getting mixed, like, my words aren't making sense to me, but,
They're making sense to me though. So like,
good.
yes, when you talk about older magical theory, I think that we're kind of talking about the chaos magic side of magical theory,
Mhm,
right? Where we're talking about shifting perceptions, shifting um, you know, yeah, like shifting perceptions of yourself and the world around you. But also chaos magic is so much about like bending the confines of reality in certain ways, which can lose you. Like you can lose
yeah,
yourself in that. So big disclaimer there. But
yeah,
glamour magic is, one not to be lost in, but also something that can help you to make what is on the ground, the way that you're moving through the world a little bit easier because you have that.
yeah,
Yeah. So I have an ancestor that I've worked with who definitely utilized some glamour magic back in the day,
yeah,
and now that we're talking, I'm like, "Oh, I need to talk to her about this
mhm,
specifically
mhm,
because of some of the things that, like I know about her, I know about her life." And I think that that could be really helpful, particularly in this like protective glamour magic way. But
mhm,
also, like, attracting, the good life.
mhm,
Another thing that I think is really nice about glamour magic is that, um, it kind of is a compounding thing, like, if you do it over and over and over again, like, it is something that you have to kind of keep up or that you have to, try to do, actively, so you can sort of shift as you go, like, into you can like use it to feel out different aspects of your identity, which I think really helps with queer magic.
mhm,
So, thinking about my own queer journey and where I'm at with everything, utilizing glamour magic might actually help me in order to overcome some aspects of dysphoria,
mhm,
for example, that I'm feeling, or to, like try out a certain kind of presentation before fully going for it.
mhm.
Um,
I
yeah.
love that. Yeah, and another thing I wanna highlight too, we're talking about a lot of, like, protection and abundance and, like, the healing parts of the queer journey and, like, learning to be empowered in your own skin. It is also okay to just want to look good and look glamorous, and it drives me nuts from a queer perspective because queer history and identity is also so tied up with, like, subcultural aesthetics and things like that, and so I that is also really powerful magic in a different way. It's like rebellious magic, it's resilience magic, it's no matter what you do to me, I'm gonna look quote unquote weirder and weirder, or however you like to frame it in your mind. And I'm gonna be weirder and weirder. And but again, the being in glamour magic is not like it's okay to just want to do a glamour magic to look hot before you go out to try to dance with people or whatever. Like there is
Yeah.
absolutely nothing wrong with that. And honestly, for glamour magic too, I tend to think that those sort of like smaller spells are the ones that are end up being really, they pack a punch. Like, it's quick, but it does its job. Like, and I think that those individual experiences of building up confidence in that way make you have more confidence in a way that makes you a better witch, a better person, a better queer, a better community member. Because one thing too that happens in a lot of queer culture is a lot of like infighting rooted in insecurity. And so um I went and we and a lot of times because we have insecurities about being perceived certain ways, we like project that onto other people. And again, this is a very human experience. And one thing Siri and I want to do is like not pathologize everything and not whatever. Like that is a very normal human way to react to things. That doesn't mean that other people deserve it or it's like chill that you do that. And so one thing Glamour Magic can help you build confidence with over time is again having those like quick, impactful punches of magic do their job, and then you're like, oh, I can look really hot and dance with whoever I want whenever I want. And that like tells you something about yourself that you maybe didn't realize before. And then again, confident people are less likely to pick fights with other people. They're less likely to project onto other people. And so again, these are things that Glamour Magic is not a one-time fix, but doing them repeatedly and in layers like Siri was talking about will help your healing process even when that is not the focus.
It's like it's not a crime to wanna be hot, y'all.
No.
Like,
No.
like, that's not selfish in any way, actually, and I feel like that is so much, like, the patriarchy, like, breathing down your neck of, like, "Oh, like, I grew up in a an area where being understated was really important and, kind of not even not turning heads, but just, like, there was this weird, like, you were supposed to want to turn heads, but you weren't supposed to seem like you wanted to turn heads
Mhm.
sorta thing
That's also
that
a very South Carolina mentality.
yeah, so it was very, and that's an impossible balancing act to do because what? What do you mean? What do you actually mean, though, about that? Because that,
100%.
like, doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I think that this is a good kind of segue to talking into stuff that has worked for us and stuff that has not worked for us. Let's get into the practical. If you're listening this far in and you're like, yes, I'm game, I want to do some glamour magic, but how?
Glamour magic is still about relationships with your tools and your spirits like any other kind of magic. It's just that the tools you might be using might be, say, a makeup brush or a binder or something like that. And so, enchanting those things, pouring some energy and incantations into those will, I mean, that is like something that, again, is short term, but really impactful. I have a color corrector that I don't think works, but I always do glamour magic with it. And other people will be like, oh, your skin's looking a lot better lately, like not nearly as red. And I'm like, cool, good. um, and I think that that's two things. I think that's the glamour magic working. I also think it's like we're our own worst critics. So like I'm not seeing the positive change because it is a color corrector should not be obvious anyway. um so
Right. Well, and you're like, I know it's there. I
mhm.
know it's there.
Yeah, like so I also prefer sheer makeup to looking caked on, so that's also like a balancing act. With the exception of eye makeup and lipstick, but I just mean like skin cover. um
Yeah.
And so, because I don't really care when my eye makeup looks like I'm a drag queen, because really, if I'm wearing eye makeup, I'm being a drag queen. So,
Right.
um, yeah, so things like that really work. So specifically, the way it would work is let's get out of femhood because that's not all of our listeners. That's just where Siri and I tend to live. Um, but Siri and I are also both non-binary and have struggled with gender dysphoria in various ways, and we have both worked with or tried binders. And so I'll use that example. A binder is If you don't like your chest and you don't want people to see it or perceive it, you wear a binder. Again, the health disclaimer that you should not wear them for extended periods of time, no matter how bad your dysphoria is, because they can like kind of crush your insides and stuff. But um short bursts are great. Um and again, you're building confidence, you're building yourself and your own image in those moments and like overriding the other ways you see yourself slowly over time. But anyway, you take your binder, and what I recommend is just kind of sitting with it, either praying over it or doing some incantations over it that are like, when I wear this, please don't let anyone perceive me as a woman. It's also a lot of people will say don't use negatives in your craft, and I have mixed feelings about it. So another way to say it is like, people will perceive me as a man or will know that I'm non binary and respect that when I wear this binder. And so you put that into it. Sometimes you can run it through some like incense smoke or candle smoke if you have something like that going on. You can use like a grounding stone in your pocket to sort of supplement it, something like that. And then you just put the binder on and it does its job. So it's not a kind of magic that you have to be in constant awareness throughout the day, which is also nice. Now, occasionally you will do such a good glamour magic spell that you do feel like you're in a magical fugue state for the whole night or something. And like, as long as you're not walking in front of cars or something, like that's also fine. um,
Yeah. So one thing that I think is glamour magic that people don't talk about, but it's on so many lists of like things to do before you go into a job interview is fucking power poses.
yes, they're so impactful.
Like they are actually very impactful. And then if you add a little like glamour magic chant in there of like, you know, I am, or an affirmation, right? It doesn't even have to be
Hmm.
like a specific chant. It can be like, I am confident, I am poised, I am the best candidate for this position if you're interviewing.
Hmm.
All of those things are really, really helpful. So I work with the runes. Another thing to do is like to like strike a rune pose.
Oh, I like
um,
that though.
yeah, like I'm trying to think like solo, like if you can try to like like make solo with your body or another thing that I will do is if I have like a perfume roller, not necessarily a spray on, but like a roller that I'm using for the day, I might trace a rune on my wrist with that. And then depending on the scent, of course, I could either do it on both wrists or just like do it on one wrist and then rub them together. So that's a really good one. Another thing that I think is helpful with glamour magic is sigils. So I do like to pair sigils with glamour magic quite a bit.
Hmm.
So one old school one that I have not used in a while, but like this is another rune one that you could use very easily, or just like a
Hmm.
simple sigil. Really simple though, is if you use a cream lipstick, like turn it all the way out so like the lipstick is sticking almost all the way out of the tube, and then like take a pin and sterilize the pin and then trace a sigil into that
Ooh,
lipstick and like
yeah, I like that.
use that. Or other makeup tools, if you are on the mask side of things or just don't like to wear makeup, you could also like um make a sigil on like a cloth clothing tag and like sew it into your
Mm.
clothing. If that's like not a sensory nightmare for you. Or you could like slip it into your shoe. I have seen some really cool and interesting sigil work or binder and work where people will carve them into the bottom of their shoes.
Oh,
Like,
I like that, yeah.
yeah, like they're like old I've particularly seen them, and this is maybe a little bit also like kind of bringing in the cunning work too. I've seen like antique shoes that were discovered that like have sigils carved into the bottom of them.
Mhm.
Back when like it was more common to have a wooden sole, for example,
Yeah,
or
but
something
you
like
can
that.
yeah, and you can definitely still do it with our souls that we have now.
Or like
And it
chalk.
yeah, chalk is a good one. Yeah. I like that a lot.
Another, like, great thing for anyone, regardless of, um, gender identity or mask or femme or, anything is, utilizing scent, in glamour magic. So, like, what does it mean to you to smell like cedar and
Mhm.
pine or something? Like, that is a cologne that I will often use. I have, like, a hard cologne. Um Hard cologne? Solid cologne, sorry. That, I will use on days when I wanna be perceived as more mask, and,
Mhm.
I could probably add a quick, like, affirmation or intention as I am putting
Oh,
that
yeah.
on, and I don't necessarily, but it's just because, like, the way that I work with the plant of cedar is, like, very healing, and so this scent feels very healing to me, but also very, like, I am the lumberjack I want to see in the world,
Mhm.
um, kinda thing.
I remember what I was gonna say, and it was another way to do it if you just wanna consistently look hot or look queer or look like a person who is safe or has money or whatever. A sigil on the back of the hairbrush that you use every day is also a really good one, especially because so much magic is held in the hair in cunning work, but I feel like that has been true for me as well, just, like, in my
Mm.
life, not just in magical theory.
That's really good, and I actually just this is giving me ideas because I just acquired a boar bristle brush with, like, a wooden back, and now I'm like, "Ooh, I'm gonna put some runes on that shit. I'm gonna glamorize the hell out of that. That sounds great." One of the most ancient rune findings is actually, a comb, the Vimos comb, and it has what is maybe, like, a name or, like, a word or something carved in, and we just aren't totally sure, like, if it was this person's name or not. Um, so I could totally do that.
Yeah. I was gonna say too, it doesn't always have to be something that you do, it can also just be something that reinforces things. So, for example, I have often told Siri that my personal style is like, I want to look like a fae that is trying to convince everyone else that it's human. That is like what I want to look like. And I love to use wet brushes because even though I have thin hair, it gets tangled really, really easily. It's an all around loser situation for my hair. And so, but I wasn't even trying to do this. I was on a trip and I needed a brush and I only like to use the wet brushes and they only had like 3 at the store. And 2 of them just were ugly. I don't know what it was. I just did not like them. And then so I got one that ended up the way it so it has, like, separations and stuff, but it's basically it looks like a leaf, and it is also made of recycled material, and so,
Hmm.
now, like, every time I brush my hair with it, I am like, "Yes, I am a magical fae creature brushing my hair with a leaf." Like, that's,
I
um
promise everybody listening that Cassandra is in fact human.
I'm so human. I'm starting my own rumors, but
Oh my god. So you just reminded me of things that have not worked for me in the past.
yeah, let's talk about that too.
So I am historically dog shit at Glamour Magic. I'm like, I have ideas and very bad follow through, and like it just does not work
Mm,
very well for me. For a lot of reasons that I think like, stem from my personal life and stuff. But some things that have not worked for me is like trying to use an affirmation or something before I'm actually ready for it. It's like
oh
I
god,
skip
yeah.
a step, right? So I'm just like, I'm the hottest one in the room. Not an affirmation I've actually used, but we'll just go with it. So like say like, I want to feel like the hottest person in the room, but I'm so far from believing that I just need to like be like, I am mid. I am not ugly. I am mid, and that is okay. You know,
Mm,
like, this is
yeah.
all, like, very bad, but, like, these are not actual affirmations. I wouldn't write that I am mid as an affirmation. But, like, a step between those things, because if it's so far removed from what you can believe about yourself, the magic is just gonna fall flat. Like, it's not gonna, work super well. I also I not magic is not about intention isn't everything with magic, but it also is really important.
Yeah.
Um, like, there's this big debate about, like, in the community that I've seen flashes of because I'm not on social media very much, blessedly. But there's, like, this big debate happening about, like, whether or not, like, intention is everything in the craft.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh my god, you guys, I can't even." And then I, like, log off when I see that. Um, because, like, intention is not everything, it's intention paired with relation. So, like, that shouldn't be that hard. Like, I don't know, I in teaching students, I've had, students ask me, like, "Well, what if I, like, accidentally cast a spell?"
Oh
And I'm
my
like,
god.
"Babes, you're not gonna do that." And that's what I think of whenever I see people, like, arguing about, like, intention isn't everything. It's like,
Yeah.
no, my poor students who are like, "I don't wanna, like, accidentally cast a spell," are gonna read that and think, "Oh, fuck, I don't even have to intend something?" Which okay, so the one caveat I have for that is the evil eye, which, like, you can
Mm.
cast the evil eye without intending to.
You
Howmstever,
can.
like, for most things, you do need an intention, and with glamour magic, I feel like setting an intention is very important. Um, it's not as though, like, every time I use the cedar cologne, like, it's working as glamour magic. I almost have to, like, slow down and think about it that way, and that reinforces it, you know?
Yeah.
Sigils help bind the magic to it, so I don't have to think about it as much. So, like, if I were to sterilize, like, a pin or something and then draw a sigil in the solid cologne, like, that would be, a little bit different, but, even that, you do need to reinforce things. However, I can also call upon the spirit of cedar and the way that I work with the spirit of cedar and say, like, hey, buddy, you are in this thing. Um, and I want to feel this way. I want to feel loved and supported and held by you every time I utilize this cologne, which is going to help me with my
Mhm.
confidence. And please help me to feel more masculine. That paired with an intention of, like, glamour magic is really going to ground that for you.
Well, and I think speaking to what you said too, I think my personal the chaos magic, like, bottom line too is that no part of the spell is more important than any other, but if I were pressed, I would actually say trust and belief in the spell is the most important part. And so
Yes.
when
Yes.
you start with S because so a way that I don't necessarily have intentions that sometimes the magic still works is when I am developing new relationships or I am trying new techniques that I found, in books or on social media or on a blog or whatever. When I'm trying new techniques, I might not have a super specific intention unless they specifically are like, you need a super specific intention to do this. Um or I'll just, like, cast an intention in those situations that I'm not all that invested in the outcome because it's about developing the relationship and trying the technique, to see if anything happens so that I can kind of figure it out later. Um, but in those cases, I am still putting my trust and faith and belief in the fact that if I am meant to or not meant to, but if I should continue developing this relationship, if I should continue developing this technique, something will happen. Um and so because of that, that kind of intentionless magic does still work. But if I read a technique that feels so counter to what I do or believe and I decide to try it anyway, that is almost never going to work no matter how keen my intention is or how good my relationship with the materia is. Because I mean, you could also argue that my trust in the materia in those cases is also not actually very strong because I'm not actually trusting them. But trust is also hard for me, and I don't think that that makes me a bad witch. It just is something that I have to work with and work around. Um,
Well, and also, like, when you're working magic, you shouldn't trust everything
oh no.
right
Yeah, we just had a
away.
whole episode about that. Like,
Yeah, like, I don't know. I think that I've been thinking a lot about, like, monstrous magic lately,
uh-huh.
actually, and, like, the monstrous side of witchcraft that, like, is extremely personal and people don't necessarily talk about terribly often, and I do think that it is an important aspect of the magic, um, working, but it is also so personal that it's hard to be like, "Ah, yes, monsters."
Uh-huh.
Um, but I have been thinking about that a lot lately and how, like, magic is not safe. Like, it can be very safe, but, like, it's not inherently a safe practice.
I feel almost like that I do about improv though, where like I mean, not to super fuck anyone up right now, but like nothing is actually safe. Like that
Right.
and I bring up improv because someone had asked a question in a class I was in a couple weeks ago that was like, do you plan what you're gonna and it was an all levels class. But and so there were like beginners in it, which is great. And a lot of times they're my favorite improvisers to play with. But another student had asked, do you ever plan what you're gonna say? And one of the instructors was like, like just so you feel safe, like you're not just out there without a safe thing. And one of the instructors who is great and who I learned so much from was like, no, because we don't have that in life. Like when you're in conversation with someone, you don't know what you're going to say. And so hearing you say that about magic, it's also like, well, yes, but I don't want to scare people away from magic. I do want to scare people into doing like protective magic, but I in general don't want to scare people away from magic. What I will say is that like nothing is safe. Again, not to fuck everyone up, but like
Right, yeah, I think this is maybe a topic for a different this conversation we're having right now is probably a topic for a different episode.
yeah.
Um, just because there's so much to it and so much nuance and so much, like, history of magic workers and,
Yeah.
like, magic through the centuries that is,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
kind of tied up in this conversation. So I'm gonna steer us a little bit,
Yeah.
um, just because it's so juicy that I want a full episode on it.
That's super
Um,
fair, and I think I just wanted to give the disclaimer that, like, we're not trying to scare people away from magic. Like, that belief is rooted not only in historicity, but in the fact that we live in the world, and the world
yeah.
is not safe.
Yeah, it's,
And so the magical sort of effects or manifestations of the world are also not going to automatically be safe.
exactly, exactly. So let's talk about speaking of the world, um, what a broad segue, Siri. Speaking of the world, what happens when other people use glamour magic and you encounter them?
So I will actually say this because I think it's important to what I'm about to say to understand the context I'm coming from. For whatever reason, because again, this is not even like the main thing of magic I practice, which is why I was in the beginning. I was like, this is a lot of UPG, y'all, just so you know. I usually spot a glamour spell and it doesn't always turn me off. Like a lot of times I'm just, and so an example I would use is whether this was actual quote unquote what we would call witchcraft or whether this was just a lot of glamour magic of, like, the hair and the makeup and stuff like that. I think a big example that I use that we're both familiar with is, like, David Bowie was glamour magicking us outside of performing. He did not look like this. He did not act like this. He did not and I would argue that's probably true of most, like, especially glam rock stars, right? Like, it's in the name. But, hard rockers in general I lived with some aspiring, like, hard rock stars, and they also, like, baked me cookies and make sure I had coffee in the morning. Like, no one is just one thing, and so a lot of times Glamour Magic is, like, bringing different sides out, which is maybe something we should have said earlier, but, like, yes, that's
So
probably why yeah.
this is really funny for people who are watching on YouTube. The card that is the star that I pulled. So each of the cards on the Gothmancy Tarot have like a musician that they're like based
Mhm.
around. It's goth music. Um and the star is David Bowie. So that's like really funny.
That's probably why he was on my mind, but, like, yeah. So I say that to say, like, I whether it is me spotting glamour magic or whether it is me just perceiving, like, "Oh, that's not actually the entirety of this person." Like, for some reason, I can spot it from a mile away, usually. We'll get into, like, our less good examples later, but, um, usually for me, it has no real, like, bearing on um, how much I like or trust that person or not, because to some extent, we are all doing glamour magic all the time. Like, we are all trying to bring up different sides of ourselves to different people. And as long as they are genuine sides of ourselves, that's not actually, like, wrong. That's just how being a human works. And so, um
I also just think too that like it's less glamour magic is less suspect when I can recognize it. When I'm like,
yes.
"Oh, that's what's going on here." Or, cuz there's the effect of glamour magic and then there's also like why the person is doing it. And very often,
Mhm.
it's not necessarily that like this person wants me to fall in love with them or like this person, wants to control me in some way. That's not what it is. It's like they
No.
they want to move through the world in a certain kind of way and glamour magic helps them do that. And that doesn't necessarily have um any like negative um thing with my uh negative impact on my life or on my
Right.
willpower.
Exactly. And so, so some good examples of, like, times I've recognized it or when other people use it. I'm in a few discords, and something that I really like that I think is, like, a form of glamour magic, especially in witchy discords, is when you're like, "Hey, you all, I really need help raising visibility for this offering." And then you get other people to post about it. And I say that this is glamour magic because it is setting up the idea to the world that you already have a lot of supporters, that you already have a lot of people willing to boost you or help you out. And that um and then on top of that, like, especially if you like enchanted the offering or whatever, like every time it goes out, it's pushing it forward again. So that's one that I really like, but I have a few, and like honestly, a lot of Siri and I's friendship is that, and a lot of my improv community friendships are that. So again, something that hasn't come up yet, but I think it's good to bring up here. Like, we can also sort of like do glamour magic for other people, like we can any other kind of magic. But because of the nature of glamour magic, in my opinion, it is usually like boosting what they are already doing. So I
Yeah.
really like that. And so when other people are sharing for you, it also suggests expertise. I think that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. Yeah.
so that's one good example that I really like. I also just like, I don't know, when a hot witch walks in the room and has clearly been doing their glamour magic and it's just sexy, like I just like, I don't know, like that makes me like you more. I'm like, "Oh, not only are you sexy enough that it worked, but also like you are a strong magician, a glamour magician." So,
Right.
that's like even more attractive to me.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
So some negative examples. Um I'm also going to say this on this podcast. Please don't use this against me, all of our listeners. Um I am very susceptible to glamour magic. I have a hard time recognizing that that's what's going on and I'm just it, like, gets in my head, and this is more so a negative thing about my response to glamour magic, not saying don't perform glamour magic, but I get in my head about, like, why am I so fascinated with this person? Why am I, like, going after them? Or, like, why am I, so interested in this? Or if it's, somebody who runs a witchy shop or something who is utilizing glamour magic, I tend to overspend
Mm.
when they are utilizing glamour magic because, like I said, I'm a very susceptible person to this. Um, and that also goes back to my issues, which maybe I just need to use more glamour magic to kind of like boost myself up to kind of gain the confidence because for a lot of my life one of the things that I've been fighting against is this idea that like everybody is hotter and better than I am.
Mm.
And so
Same,
when they're yeah, so
same.
when they're, like, using a glamour, like, that loop gets activated almost in my brain,
Yeah,
and that's a Siri problem. That is
yeah,
not a them problem, to be clear.
yeah, and I would say I struggle with a lot of the same things, but I feel like my coping mechanism is different, which is that, well, A, I have really just like awful social anxiety that I just don't think that you deal with in the same way that I do. Like I know it flares up, but if I am like on a public facing thing, including the internet, my guards are automatically up. Like just, and so I think that that is a lot of it. Like I move through the world with the trauma with, like, the traumatized brain of, like, what is going to happen that is bad now? And so, um, and,
Yeah.
like, that's obviously something I need to work on and move through, but
Yeah, it's, like, one of those delicate things. I have noticed when I notice a glamour, I see through it every time.
Mhm.
Like, when that person enters a room or, the
Yeah,
internet, or I see their post on Instagram or whatever, like, when I notice that they are using a glamour, it's almost like I can see all of their pores.
yeah,
It's like there's, like, a physical, visceral, like, "Oh," kind of moment, and then, like, it just, like, kinda shakes me out of it. It's like, in those it's like being shaken out of a love spell or something almost,
mhm,
when I see that. So I am working on trying to figure out some better ways of dealing with that.
yeah. Well, and one way too that I would suggest is like I've mentioned glitter, but really anything reflective, like you're wearing metal earrings right now, you have glasses right now, and like if I were you, and I'm not saying that you should or have to do this, but I would enchant my earrings that those things like bounce off of me and don't get, especially with earrings, because they're like right by holes in your head. And then with glasses, I would like enchant them like, okay, with these glasses, I see things clearly, including through other people's glamour magic and stuff.
That is, like, the perfect segue into our chaos and cunning for the episode. So should we
Yes.
just go for it?
Yeah, do
Okay.
it. So this
So
is the chaos and cunning corner where we tell you what chaos and what cunning we are making in the world.
yeah. So I was at Salem Witch Fest last week, or not last week, a couple weeks ago as of recording this. And I got to talk to the incredible Jasmina Von Teal.
Mhm.
Love
It was
her.
amazing. Yeah.
If you have never listened to the Romanistan podcast, do yourself a favor and listen.
It is so
Um,
good.
it is incredible if you're interested in like, Romani magic or, the history of like the Romani people and like their, association with the occult and magic and everything, like the Romanistan podcast is incredible. Anyway, so I was talking to her and like this came up because she was talking about glamour magic and um I mentioned that I was really struggling with being susceptible to glamour magic and she was like,
Mhm.
"Oh, you should enchant your glasses."
Oh, yeah, funny.
Because I wear my glasses every day, right? She was like, "Do
Yeah.
you wear your glasses every day?" And I was like, "Yes." And she said, "You should totally enchant those." So I'm getting new glasses. But I'm thinking about getting like a little like something to put on the bridge of them. or,
Ooh,
like, a little
yeah.
tiny, like, thing, or maybe, like, an oil that I can use to anoint the bridge of my glasses to sort of reinforce that, like, I see clearly, you know, Glamour Magic does not have a hold on me, sort of affirmation. I'm trying to figure out what that affirmation should be because I part of me is like, if it's glamour magic, it's actually okay if I reflect it back on the person because then, like,
Mhm.
they're getting that extra feeling that they actually
Oh,
want,
yeah.
right? Of like, "Oh, like, I wanna feel hot."
Yeah.
And if I just reflect that back to them, if I, like, let that bounce off of me and back onto them, like, that's actually fine, right?
Yeah.
So I'm kinda thinking about that. Um, and I'm probably gonna experiment a little bit with this pair, and then when I get my next pair of glasses, I'll, be able to kind of like shift it a little bit.
I
Another thing
love
I'm
that.
wanting to do is that is a little bit different is enchanting glasses against evil eye stuff because I wear it every
Yeah.
day. And like I also don't want to just like throw the evil eye unless I want to.
Mhm.
I don't want to do that accidentally. So I'm thinking about that as well.
Yeah. What cunning work are you doing this Oh, are we never mind. I can
No,
do my
we're
chaos
doing that.
now.
We can do that.
Great.
So I am in a quest to get Sally Owens hair. I have
Yes.
wanted specifically Sally Owens hair for most of my life, and like it was so silly. So, oh my god, oh my god. I we're going off on a tangent. It's fine. Strap in. We're doing it. We're doing it live. Um, I watched Practical Magic as a child, and I was like, oh my god, I love Sandra Bullock's hair. I really want Sally Owens hair. Um, and I'm naturally blonde. And, it never occurred to me for some reason to dye my hair brunette, that, like, that is
Oh,
actually, like, an
funny.
achievable color to get, and
Yeah.
that's especially funny because I have spent, like, years dyeing my hair fantasy colors, and that is, like, really fucking hilarious. So when I dyed my hair brunette, it was actually because I was trying to get back to my natural blonde color, but my stylist quoted me that it would be $300 to $400 to get back to blonde, and I was like, "Okay, well, I don't wanna have blue hair anymore, so I'm just gonna be a brunette," and I love it. I love being a brunette. So anyway, all of that to say, I am doing some glamour magic and cunning work specifically on my hair tools. Um,
I
so
love that.
I am crafting a scalp oil. Um, and, working with the plants that I'm using for the scalp oil, so I'll be using that once a week. I also am going to absolutely burn some sigil work or a bind rune into my wooden, boar bristle brush, and I
Mhm.
can feel it already, like, it's, like, working. My hair is sprouting. It's luscious. It's beautiful.
Yay. I do a lot of stuff like that just because I have such thin hair and because of PCOS and my extremely disobedient thyroid and parathyroid glands. I just am constantly so worried about my hair thinning. And I will say I think it's in a better place right now than it has historically been.
Your hair been
Um,
looking good.
Thanks. And there are very practical things I do. Like I did get one of those like scalp massager, like scalp stimulating things that I use at night and in the morning. And I like am surprised because I think it's work. At first I was like, I think my hair is like too dead for this to work, but nope. um, and then I also use a biotin to shed a biotin leave-in every a couple times a week. Specifically to stop shedding because even though that won't help me grow more hair, which is like the goal, like still more hair is better. Like and like the biotin also like it smells good and it like I don't know, it has its own glamour. So I feel like we could do a whole episode on hair magic at some point
We could. Maybe
because
that'll
we've
be like
also
an extra special episode or a mini-sode.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, My chaos, but it is magic, just let me get there. Siri was in attendance last night. I had, a party that was a taco potluck, but it was tacos and T-Rex is what I named it, and we had, like, Jurassic Park and Lost World on mute, and I originally had a playlist with every song that mentions any kind of dinosaur, and I included Godzilla because, y'all, not enough people write songs about dinosaurs to satisfy this party's needs, and then
It
and
was
so then
dire.
it was. There were 2 different versions of Walk the Dinosaur, including the Queen Latifah one from Ice Age, and, like, love her, not her best jam. And and I think that she would probably tell you that too. And so, I think that she was like, "Yeah, I took that Ice Age paycheck." Um, and so anyway, I had this party and it was really fun, and me and, like, 3 of my friends were all wearing, like, wearing dinosaurs and T-Rexes, um, and it was really fun. So that's, like, the chaos part. That's just, like, what I'm doing once a month is when I open my house to people is, like, making dinosaur playlists and watching movies on mute and having way too much food. I have, like, 3 things of guacamole I need to eat now, which is not actually a problem, but,
That sounds great.
um,
I'll take one off your
so
hands.
yeah, yeah, um, not if I eat it first. No, I'm just kidding. Um,
Not if
but
I get there
in
first.
but the party specifically also, I started throwing a party series, for lack of a better word, right before my baby was born, like a few months before. I had monthly parties, and at the time, I was like, I'm doing this as like a therapy exercise to try to move through some of my social anxiety. And then also, like, I get so scared to leave my house sometimes that it's like bringing the fun to me. And the first several times I was like, I'm also doing this to be perceived as like a cool, fun person that throws cool, fun parties that people just like to go to their house and hang out, even if it's not a party. Like that is, and I know that Siri is gonna be like, Cassandra, that is literally what you are, but like I need to feel it and believe it, and I don't, but I'm starting to. And
I'm glad that
so
I'm
the
the little voice in your head that is like, "No, you are actually a fun and good person."
Oh, thank you. But, so, uh, yeah, when I started throwing these, I mean, Siri, you could probably even see a difference last night, and, like, the first time I threw a party, I was like, "Is everyone eating? Does everyone like my dip? Is everyone having fun?" I would, like, ask people in the middle of the party if they were having fun. Um And so, I had to wait to not be so exhausted all the time from having a newborn, and so I'm sort of back. It might not be every month, but, I had one last night, and then my queer platonic partner's birthday is in September, so we'll be having one in September. You're probably hearing this after September, and that's fine. Sorry that listeners did not make it to Manny's party, and then, um but last night, I felt very, like, and I will also say I think parenthood has changed me into a more confident person, like, I don't even know what it is. It just feels like this is always where I was supposed to be in my life or something, I don't know. It just, like, I feel more right to me now. And I know a lot of parents have the opposite reaction, but for me, I feel like I've found a lot of aspects of myself on this journey. Anyway, all that to say, last night at the party, I was literally just chilling. Like, I was still being a good host and, like, making sure people knew where everything was, but I really wasn't nervous until everyone went home, and then I had my normal levels of yapper's remorse, but, I would even argue that my nervous yapping wasn't actually that bad last night, and so, um, yeah. I feel like anytime I was talking a lot, it was because I was, like, actually in the conversation. So, mm, that's an example both of me being chaotic and making everyone watch dinosaur movies all night, and then also Glamour Magic over time working to the point where, like, even I was like, "Yeah, this is a fun party. Everyone seems to be having fun." Um, my cunning is much more chill. It's I think I said this last week too, or last episode too, but we are recording and it is still garden harvest season, and so that has been very lovely. That does not mean I have not resorted to chaos about it. At the party, there was also a big pickle. My
It
garden grew
was
a really
when you say there was a big pickle, I'm imagining people are visualizing, like, a pickle that you would get at the Ren Fair or, like, a pickle that comes with your Jimmy John's order. No. This was, like, a a a full ass, like, like, foot-long cucumber pickle.
that was, like, dense as fuck, like
Yeah, like, you need to know this. Like, this needs to be
yeah.
specified.
Yeah, it was huge, and but anyway, so I got that cucumber out of my garden, and then I was like, I'm never gonna be able to eat through a cucumber fast enough, so, um, it is time to pickle it. Um, but yeah, and so but I will say with cunning work too, I've been playing with pickles a lot more, not even necessarily magically, but it's like getting to know flavors, getting to know my plants, getting to know the pickling process, all of that stuff. So, that's sort of where I am in cunning work is the garden has been good to us this year, so I'm able to sort of dig into more of that relationship building, which other than being chaotic is my other favorite part of magic. Um, and again, if you know me in real life, you know I love two things, being chaotic and forming good relationships, and I don't really give a shit about much else.
Yeah. I absolutely thought you were gonna talk about the photo printing chaos that we wove together
I
last night.
the that friend is not as public, so and also I just kind of forgotten about that part, but I have a friend, and so I will just leave their name and gender and stuff out of it, but they took some we were watching Jurassic Park, and they had previously taken like a Jeff Goldblum photo shoot of, like, you all know, like, the sexy Jeff Goldblum pose. My photo printer, I have, like, a Canon photo printer that I love. Canon, if you wanna sponsor this podcast, please hit me up. But,
Yeah, we love
I
you,
abs
Canon. Thank you. Thanks.
we love it so much, but the printer needed updated like, the plugin on my phone needed updated last night, and it took 3 people, and eventually Siri figured it out for me. But it started working again literally as the Jeff Goldblum scene hit the TV. It then printed out the photo of my friend, and I was like, "Jeff Goldblum, you're magic." Like
It was incredible, and I was like, I wasn't even trying to do that because I haven't seen Jurassic Park in so long that, like, I didn't even know, like, what was happening, and then suddenly, like, it was printing in my hands, and we, like, looked at each other, and, like, I think one of us, maybe me, like, pointed at the screen, like, at the printer. I think that's some kind of, like, weird fae magic. I don't that wasn't me. I don't think that was me. I don't think that was
I mean, there
you. I also don't think it was Jeff Goldblum.
I mean, it very well could have been the printer spirit itself because I had been, like, subtle spell casting over it the whole time, but still, it was very funny.
It was
Anyway,
hilarious.
that's us this week. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, see you next time, and we will be talking about protection magic next time.
Sounds so fun. See y'all in a
Uh,
bit.